Have you ever taken a look at what matters most to Americans and what Donald Trump is talking about? And have you ever thought about what's not on the top 10 list? Well, I'm going to talk to you about it today, my friend. You've come to the right place. I am Voice of Resistance. This is Randall Terry, and I said that backwards on purpose.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
If you study the rise of Donald Trump and you study what matters to American voters, it makes sense. And if other candidates wanted to be at the top of the pile, well, they would have been listening. And believe me, there's some stuff that is not on this list that we're going to talk about in a minute. But check this out. Look at what concerns American voters and then think of what Donald Trump says. What's number one? Terrorism. And what does he say? We're going to knock the hell out of ISIS. We're going to destroy them. We're going to do it right. We're going to take their oil. Next, dissatisfaction with government. What is Trump saying? That our government is led by people who are inept, who are unqualified, who couldn't get a job in the private sector, that the American voter is being taken advantage of, okay? So, number one and number two, Trump is beating like a dirty rug. Number three, the economy in general. And then number five, unemployment jobs. What does he say? I'm a businessman. We're going to have such great deals. I'm going to be the best jobs creating president that heaven has ever created. He's hammering on these things. And because he's a multi-billionaire, well, he's got some credibility. He probably could negotiate better deals than Obama and his minions. He probably could create an atmosphere in which jobs came back to America. All right, that was number 4 and 6. Let's take a look at, that was number 3 and 5. Let's take a look at number 4, guns. If people in California and San Bernardino have been able to shoot back in the other direction, if people in Paris, which has the toughest gun laws in the world, France, which has the toughest gun laws in the world, if they had been able to shoot bullets back in the other direction, there would have been a lot fewer dead people. He's hammering on these issues. Next, ethics, moral, religious decline. He gets pretty low marks on that one. Pretty low marks. But it played well for Ted Cruz in Iowa. It'll play well for Cruz in South Carolina. It'll play well for Ben Carson in South Carolina. Those issues will play well where there's pockets of voters that have a more astute grasp of the things that matter. And I will return to this. Let's keep looking. Next, crime and violence. I would lump that under gun control in part, and I would lump it under terrorism in part. But the truth of the matter is, now we're starting to get way down on the pole. Look at the situation in Iraq, ISIS. Well, that's poorly said because terrorism and ISIS should be linked together. In Iraq, Trump wins there because he said, I'm the only guy who said we shouldn't be going into Iraq. Immigration, illegal aliens, 5% right now. That number was up substantially before the attacks in San Bernardino and Paris, but Trump was way ahead of the curve there and said we're going to build a wall. So he's winning on that one. How about on national security? I'm going to build the biggest, best, strongest military that America has ever had. No one will dare to mess with us. He's hitting that one. Poverty, hunger, homelessness, almost never addressing it. Race relations, racism. He says, I have a great relationship with the blacks. So he hasn't done all that well on that level. Although, interestingly, there are a significant number of African Americans that are showing themselves as Trump supporters, which has Hillary really nervous and should have Bernie Sanders nervous as well. So As you study this Gallup poll, it's pretty easy to see why Donald Trump is doing so well. And there's one other thing. It's not an armchair discussion. We're not sitting, smoking our pipe, discussing the problems of terrorism and the issue of gun control and whether or not Obama is going to take our guns. No. He's got the edge in his voice like a bunch of guys sitting around at a bar shooting pool. And what about those ISIS people? We're going to knock the crud out of them. He speaks about these issues with pathos, with passion. So he's credible. The ones that he doesn't even talk about is probably to his benefit because he couldn't say them with real credence, with real credibility. So it's not a mystery to see why Donald Trump is doing so well when you look at the issues that matter with American voters. He's spot on most of these, and he says them like a man who would live and die on that hill. And that's why people are flocking to him, on the Republican side at least. And that's why I think he's going to win the presidency. I'll be right back. How would you like your name or the name of somebody that you love to be listed as a producer of our upcoming series, What Would Mohammed Do? If you are in a position to give a $1,000 gift, we have to buy some computer gear and some 4K monitors that cost about $12,000. One computer and 2 monitors, $12,000, because they're broadcast quality. This is not a Hewlett-Packard laptop, okay? If you can be one of those 12 people who give $1,000 or more, we will list you as a producer in the series, What Would Mohammed Do? Or if you want to do it in memory of a loved one, we will do that as well. Please go to the GoFundMe site you see, watch the pilot, and if you say, I want to be a part of that, give a $1,000 gift, and we will put you or the person you choose as a producer of this TV series. I thank you in advance. God bless you. Does our Lord Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, have authority in the political realm, the judicial realm, economics, education? The answer is yes. And does he want his servants to be the leaders in those realms? Again, yes. If you want to learn how you can be a leader in the power bases of America, get the series, Taking Back the Gates. Take a look at this poll, at the top 10 voter concerns, and you'll see why Donald Trump is doing so well. But notice what is not on the poll. Abortion, homosexual marriage. This list, in effect, discusses things that are wrong with America and need fixing. If heaven were to create such a list, what do you think would be at the top? I think it would be child killing. I think that the blood of babies crying from the ground is heard by God. Do you remember when Cain killed Abel? God said, your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. Blood talks to God, and God hears it. What else is not on the list? Homosexual behavior, and now homosexual marriage. When the angels came to spy out Sodom and Gomorrah, they talk about the cry reaching heaven, the cry of this iniquity, the cry of this abominable sin. So they came down to see if it was as bad as the cry, and they ended up destroying Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay? Randall, why are you down, or why are you bringing this up? I'll tell you why. Thank you for asking. God's judgment doesn't always come right away. He is slow to anger, rich in mercy. If you look at the history of this country, you'll see that we started killing babies en masse in 1973, 43 years ago. the militant homosexual movement has made great strides only in the last 10, 15 years. Now juxtapose that with ancient Israel, especially Judah. Judah was killing their children. The people of Judah were literally taking their newborn babies and offering them as burnt sacrifices, burnt offerings to the god Molech for nearly 100 years. And for a season of that, the king Josiah stopped the practice of it. He desecrated the area, the valley of the son of Hinnom. He desecrated it so they couldn't even kill children anymore. From the time that Israel was destroyed, that Judah was destroyed by the armies of Nebuchadnezzar from Babylon, from the beginning of the child sacrifice was a little bit over 100 years. And the Bible says that God would not forgive because of the sins of Manasseh, who really started child killing in earnest. You can see it in 2 Kings chapter 21. So, a little over 100 years passed from the beginning of child killing to God avenging that blood. What do you think the people of Judah said was the most important thing 50 years into it, 70, 80 years into the killing? Maybe it was their economy. Maybe it was their defense. Maybe they were worried about the rise of the Babylonian Empire. Clearly, for a lot of that time, they weren't worried about child killing. And they weren't worried about the fact that homosexual prostitutes had built booths at Solomon's temple. Some readings of it make it look like the booths were erected on the outside of the wall. Some, you think, well, was it on the inside of the wall? Whether it was inside or outside, at Solomon's temple, where the Ark of the Covenant was, where the priests in the line of Aaron offered sacrifices to the God of the universe, there were temple prostitutes, homosexual temple prostitutes. Do you think that made God angry? I think so. But God didn't respond right away. Years went by. Slow to anger, rich in mercy, sending his prophets, sending Jeremiah, sending what we call the major and the minor prophets, sending prophets to warn them of the danger that they were in. And they ignored the prophets. If you read the book of Jeremiah, you will see the very issues that I'm discussing. So, Randall, why are you bringing this up? Well, Donald Trump is doing really well. And he's focused on these issues. Put that graph up again. Think about how much he talks about terrorism. Think about how much he talks about creating jobs. Think about how much he talks about Second Amendment and being able to fight. Look at the list. Think of how many times you've heard him talk about these things. And it's resonating with voters because it's what's on their mind. But what's not on our minds, at least according to Gallup, is the shedding of innocent blood. And we will give an account for that blood. See, the list that heaven would create, the number one sin that cries out to God for vengeance, according to the scriptures, is murder, the shedding of innocent blood. God has committed himself to avenge blood. The second most heinous crime is sodomy. All right? Homosexual activity. It cries out to God. So the Trump phenomenon expresses not only that he's touching the right things, but it expresses the fact that the evangelical community and the Roman Catholic community do not have their priorities in sync with heaven's priorities. That we've missed something here. That we've lived alongside of child killing so long that we're callous to it. We don't care about homosexual marriage. We care about our money. We care about jobs. We care about terrorism. We care about guns. We care about ourselves. And herein lies the problem. And I'm going to finish with this. Stay with me. Herein lies one of the key problems regarding the defense of unborn babies. Every other people group in the world can at some level speak for themselves. fight for themselves. In other words, if someone's threatened with death, literally death, what are their options? They can try and kill their attacker, self-defense. They can flee. They can cry out for help, for someone else to come. They can beg for mercy. An unborn baby can do none of these things. Nothing. The babies only have one voice, ours. The other voice that they have is the testimony of their mangled bodies. This is why showing the pictures of aborted babies is so important, so righteous, so just, so critical. Because this is the last testimony, and perhaps at some level the only testimony that these babies will ever give. That's why the child killers at Planned Parenthood and other groups are so bent, hell-bent on keeping these pictures suppressed. They don't want people seeing these pictures because it is the testimony of these babies that they were victims of a violent, demonic crime. They are victims of murder. And while the murder of these babies might not be the number one issue that voters are concerned about, it might not be in the top 10 of what American voters are concerned about, it's at the top of God Almighty's list. And therefore, it will impact us. It might be next year, it might be a few decades from now, but there will be a price to pay because we have neglected our duty to defend the fatherless and to protect the innocent from murder. I'll be right back. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas referred to John Locke twice in his dissent in the Obergefell decision. John Locke is referred to as the philosopher of American liberty. He was a genius, and he not only believed in natural law, but he believed in revealed law, the Word of God, the law of God. And he is one of the two most influential philosophers on the founders of this republic. We are offering you this book, and I'm going to give you my book as well, The Sword. The Sword, the subtitle is The Blessing of Righteous Government and the Overthrow of Tyrants. It looks at what is the legitimate purpose of government and when is it our right to overthrow government like they did with the Declaration of Independence. We will send you these two books if you simply pay for the shipping and handling, $8, and then give whatever else you want. And by the way, the $8 doesn't cover our cost, but if that's all you can afford, we'll send them to you for the $8. God bless you. Well, we're about a week away from the South Carolina primary for the Republicans, and it's going to have a weeding effect. Chris Christie is out. Carly Fiorina is out. Carly's votes, where do they go? They're going to be spread around. She had a fairly devout intellectual following. She took a shot at Hillary on the way out, saying to women, don't vote for a woman just because she is a woman. Chris Christie, he hoped that he was going to do better in New Hampshire, was very disappointed. One of the commentators called his shots at Rubio a murder-suicide because without question, he took Rubio out at the knees in New Hampshire because of him pressing him. See, there he goes again. But it didn't help him. So he is withdrawn. I believe that a lot of Chris Christie's supporters are going to go to Trump because Christie was that tough-talking New Jersey, I can get the job done, kind of in-your-face guy, which is in many ways a mirror image of how Donald Trump is playing this. All right, so right now you have Ted Cruz and Rubio and Bush to a lower degree vying for the same vote. Cruz is after the hardcore religious vote, but there are a lot of pro-lifers and religious people that like Rubio. Bush, very little support from the true conservatives and the religious folk, but a lot of support from the establishment, which also Kasich is after. By the way, Bill Kristol, who you've seen this guy on TV before, he said, all right, I was completely wrong. He said Trump wasn't going to win a single primary. Bill, you should have been watching my program. I could have helped you not to be so embarrassed. But then he went on to say he sees a Trump Kasich ticket and a Sanders Elizabeth Warren ticket. That's possible on the Democratic side. No chance. I absolutely reject that. He is not going to pick Kasich. Kasich will be viewed as establishment. He has shown contempt for Kasich. Had way too many sound bites against Kasich. He'll sooner pick somebody like Mike Huckabee. Someone like Mike Huckabee. Or maybe even Rick Santorum, but somebody who has the ability to bring in the religious right. Trump will probably pick somebody who helps his deficiencies. And where he's deficient is in the evangelical Christian realm. I'm going to take a break, get my phone. I'll be right back. Who are you interrupting my show? Friend, this TV show represents a mission. It's to be a voice of resistance to the evil in the land, but also to inspire people like you to take a stand at any level that you might be able to equip you, to inspire you, to challenge you, to give you the rhetorical ammunition that you need. But we still have to pay bills. This program, as you know if you're a regular viewer, we don't spend a lot of time raising money. We don't spend a lot of time saying, oh, you need to buy this and we're going to run it. No, we're bringing you a message, but we still have bills that we need to pay. I'm asking you, if you have been blessed by this show, to please go to our website or send a check to the address you see on the screen or call the phone number that you see on the screen and use your credit card and to give $50 or $100 or $500 just to help us meet our normal expenses. And we'll keep bringing you this hard-hitting show. One of the greatest joys and passions that I have had for almost my entire life is music. And one of the best times that I had was putting together some albums in Nashville of songs that I wrote. One of the albums is called Dark Sunglasses Day. This is a country album, a lot of love songs and patriotic music. We've made it available to you online, and I hope that you'll go take a listen. You might be pleasantly surprised. You might even find yourself singing along. No, I'm certain I paid that bill. No, it's paid, really. Okay. No, please don't cut off my phone. Oh, we're back? All right. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope that you will spend time. By the way, Lent has begun. So for those of you who do not follow Lent, I would advise you to go to a Christian bookstore, get a book on Lent, go online, study about Lent. There are many evangelical Christians who are in a communion that does not liturgically follow Lent, but they feel the need for Lent as they approach the holy season of Easter, where we celebrate the resurrection of our Lord. By the way, I wasn't supposed to go on this, but I'll tell you, Lent is based upon the Lord Jesus' 40-day fast after he was baptized and he went into the wilderness. That's where Lent is mirrored from. All right, so I hope that this show has provoked you as a Christian to prioritize what's happening in the culture and with your life according to heaven's priorities. Don't believe anybody who tells you that God doesn't have priorities. Or say it like this. Don't believe anybody who tells you that all sins are equal. It is ludicrous. It has no foundation in Christian theology for 2,000 years. And it is a Bible verse, one Bible verse taken out of context from the book of James. You darn well better believe that all sins are not equal. And if you think that they're not, ponder if somebody steals a piece of your gum or if somebody murders a member of your family. All right? That's how you'll know from the gut that there are things that matter more than other things. Our duty is to reflect God's priorities, and hopefully with joy and with passion. God bless you. you.